goodness, my hair.
Oh goodness, your hair. The one who gave me this hair tie to put in my beard.
You can't even see it because you're so black.
Whoa, bro.
You're so dark.
Well, you got to bring up my heritage. It hurts.
Oh, look, I got a
You
notification.
got a notification? YouTube actually notified you? Amazing. What's up, Josephus? Carrie Stennett, everybody in the chat. Who was it? Paula Scott said, hey, I'm actually got a notification. I'm both impressed and surprised. I like it. Paula Scott, Paula Scott. 5x5. I almost called you Paul Scott, but you're not Paul. You're Paula. Lamppost is here as moral support or whatever. I appreciate it. Now, I guess there's 133-ish people in the room. If you're on Patreon, you're very familiar, at least you should be very familiar with the rules of the live stream. But since we're in Gen Pop this evening, yeah, JS Genesis, this is a live public video. Anybody can join. Share this with your friends. Since we're in Gen Pop right now, I will reiterate the rules for the live stream. There are rules. Very simple. The first is be freaking cool to one another in the chat. Don't be trying to score points on each other. Don't be trying to score points on me. Don't be a jerk. Treat each other as your brother or your sister. And if you grew up with a shitty childhood like I did, and you didn't have an opportunity to be good to your brother or your sister, this is your opportunity to redeem yourself via your behavior in the chat. Okay, so be cool to one another. Rule 2, very simple. Put your question in all caps. It's only allowed via Q&As. Question in all caps. That increases the likelihood that I will see it or my wife will see it. By the way, usually you only see my wife on Patreon because she's an oppressed woman trapped in a cult, and I don't share her with the internet. So if you want to say hi to people,
Shalom.
This is my wife. But if you put your question in all caps, that increases the likelihood that I will see it. If I see it and I want to answer it, I will. If I see it and I don't want to answer it, I won't. If I don't see it, I can't. And if somebody with a blue wrench answers your question has been answered. And I may refer you to one of these 7,000 plus other pieces of content that we've done. Okay? Like that, Dragon Shield. What's up? And that's the basic rules of the live stream, right?
Yep.
Cool. First question's for you, baby. From a covey of quail, how is her pregnancy going? It's
going good. We're 32 weeks today. So I'm getting large. I'm hitting that like slightly uncomfortable stage. Lots of kicking and stretching and going to like the four corners. But but otherwise I'm doing good.
Joshua St. Pierre said, hoping to get your opinion on the folding shears and how they would pair with a slick kit. So if you're going to get folding shears, I recommend you get the, yeah, bless you. I heard about Paul Harrell. Sucks, but such is life. And praise Yah that he's handling it with dignity. If you're going to get folding shears, definitely get the Kydex holster for the holder shears, which you're going to wear on your belt. We've had experience with the Leatherman Raptors as well as the SOG folding shears. They're both expensive, and neither one holds an edge very well. That's my personal experience. They're both expensive, and neither one holds an edge very well. So much so that, like, can they be resharpened? Yes. Should they have to be resharpened after cutting jeans? No. Where are we? Here we go. Our first bout of corporate shilling. These right here. These are North American Rescue shears right here that we've had branded Refuge Medical. These things will cut jeans and hoodies and Carhartt pants all day. No problemo. So for what the SOG and Raptor Leatherman Raptor shears are going for, they should hold an edge way better than they do. Have you picked out a name for the new family member? Yes, it's in the chat down below. What do you think about a married woman doing jiu-jitsu? If your husband's cool with it, I'm cool with it. We have lots of married women that do jiu-jitsu in our camp. Also, everybody wants to talk about cool guy stuff. Nobody wants to talk about PT and combatives. PT and combatives matter.
Women that do it with other men, because that was her question. It was like co-edness, because you're close, you touch.
If
And
your husband's cool with it, there you go.
Yeah.
And that's between you and your husband and your creator. But we have co-ed jujitsu classes that I don't teach at all. J.A. Dudley does. His wife's in the chat here somewhere. Shalom, sister. Do you permit the consumption of alcohol within your mutual assistance group? Yes, asterisk. Drinking is okay. Drunkenness is not. And you can't have a blood alcohol level above 0.0 if you have important shit to do. And anybody that's using it as a crutch. And see, our mutual assistance group is way more intricate than what most of y'all think that it is. We live intentionally in community with brothers and sisters in Christ, and a facet of that is mutual assistance. And so when people are stumbling on their stumbling blocks, they get called on their shit because we love them. The Bible calls this reproof and instruction, me included. Okay, I might be an ordained pastor. I might be the CEO of Refuge. I might be Bear from the internet, but I have brothers who love me enough who will call me on my own shit. And that's really, really important. Is there still room in the May Spyro class? I don't know that off the top of my head. That's below my pay grade, but refugemedical.com. Click on training and it'll tell you right there on the internets. If you weren't Bear with 100 irons in the fire and had 50K to start a business right now, what would it be? I would get into bulk grains. I would be bucketing up bulk grains for the prepper community right now. That's what I would be doing. Especially if I had 50K. I'd take 20 of that invested in inventory. I'd take 10 of that and invest it into a warehouse space and some Facebook paid ads or Instagram paid ads and Pinterest paid ads. We get a really good return on investment on Pinterest with Refuge. And then I'd keep the other 20K in OpEx for insurances, utilities, rent for the first 3 months, and payroll for you and one other person. That's what I would do. And I'd set up a banging online retail store, e-commerce, using the Shopify platform, not Wix, because Wix is abysmal and their Wix online store is even worse. That's what I would do if I had 50K and 0 irons in the fire right now. The other thing that I might do, honestly, if you live in an area like we do, is I'd spend 30K on a good used skid steer, 10K on a trailer, and I'd keep the other 10K for OpEx, operational expenses. And I just go do dirt work for people because people are hurting for dirt work. Bear Independent, Brother Bear, what made you quit smoking cigars? The Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, on Shavuot of 2023, which is the late spring harvest festival. It's the day that the Father makes and reestablishes covenants with his people. The Ruach, the Holy Spirit, convicted me that this is an idol and this is a stumbling block for you, and you need to stop doing this. And so I threw a case of Drew Estate Tobacco Special Red Eyes into the fire, which is one of my favorite. And that was that. I've had the urge to smoke since then. I just haven't done it. And I do believe at some point in the future, I may have a cigar again. But at a minimum, it'll be a year that I will consider it after Shavuot this year again. And the reason for that is, boys and gerbils, I am a light switch. I am on or off, left, right, up, down, good, bad, black, white. And so I want to make sure that I have that nipped in the bud before I have one more cigar, because, I don't have anything wrong with anything against the casual smoking of cigars, but I don't do anything casually. And that's the thing to understand. I was smoking at 1.6 to 8 cigars a day. And so, again, I don't do anything casually. I want to make sure that I am capable of doing that casually if I ever do it again. And even then, maybe one a month, maybe. So, do you still travel and do private med trainings? Yes, asterisk. If you want a private class, email sales@refugemedical.com and we'll be in touch. We do have private trainings scheduled for 2024. And a lot of the public offerings that we had made available to people in 2023, frankly, the turnout was not good. And I got tired of throwing literal tens of thousands of dollars into refuge training to be on the road all the time while burning out brothers and sisters whom I love, trying to perpetuate that business model. And so we're not doing that anymore. So now we train when we want to train at our HQ because I control a lot more of the variables, like almost everybody else in the training industry. And we do travel for private classes, but there's minimum class size that has to be met in order for that to happen. What's up, 12C? Wyco Resilience, what's going on? Dylan Carson got ruckus tickets. Praise Yah. Are you gardening with hydroponics? Nope.
Nope.
Do I think it's cool? Hell yeah. I think it's super cool. Am I currently doing it? Well, one is January, so no. Oh, you could do it if you had a greenhouse or one of those underground green. Haven't you seen the guy that grows citrus fruit in Wisconsin? I have. You know what that guy has that I don't have? Time. So no, we're not currently using hydroponics. And if I get into something like that, it will be an aquaponics system that uses fish in addition to hydroponic growing. And I have several brothers who do that and have done it quite successfully. And that intrigues the shit out of me, being perfectly honest. How much snow did you guys get? What's up, Chad? Best hair in the Bear Nation, Chad Netherton. But don't tell Hans. Don't tell Hans. Hans and Chad are in first place for best hair. They're tied for first place.
Okay.
Yeah, Chad has that beautiful Native American long black straight hair. It's gorgeous. Anyway, what the hell were we talking about? Snow. We got 1 inch of snow.
Yeah.
And of course, being Eastern Oklahoma, everything stopped for a 24-hour period. And it was melted by, what, 10 a.m.?
Yeah, it wasn't long.
Yeah. I used to average 2 to 4 cigars a week. After I went a couple of years without cigars, it was unpleasant to go back on pouches. It kept me off tobacco since April. Yeah, dude, on pouches? No way, bro. What's that like? And this is the next thing. My wife is on me all the time. Like, well, you got to stop with those. I'm like, yeah, baby, one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Do you want me to build the house or not?
Yes.
Okay, well, there you go. Did you? Yeah, it's a different story. We'll talk about that later.
What?
No, it's all good.
Okay.
I saw a question, but I missed it. Do. When is the ruckus? Exact dates. Work 1414. The ruckus is March 8th through 10th, 2024 in Fort Smith, Arkansas. Details, you may not believe this, but details are at refugeruckus.com.
Yeah, it has its own website though.
Mine is almost to my waist now. Holy cow, Chad. It's incredible. Impressive.
That's long.
Favorite bag for rucking? Oh my goodness. It depends on what I'm doing. Either the Grassman from Squat Survival, which is the bag that we use for our stomp bag, or which is an incredibly well-made bag. I have one right over here on the floor. You know what? Can I even pick it up off the floor? Oh my!
I don't know. You can't. Ah! Come back!
Oh my God!
Come back over here!
I'm coming.
Shake his all damn.
Here it is, upside down and sideways.
Yeah.
It's significant. Keep a go bag by the door. You never know what's going to happen. I don't just talk about prepper shit. I am prepper shit. Okay. Either that pack, or the one that's on my truck currently, which is the 511 Rush 100. It's incredibly comfortable. It's also manufactured overseas as compared to the Squatch Survival Grassman pack, which is not manufactured overseas. It's manufactured here. Now you're going to spend money on a good pack, which I think is maybe why you're asking this question, so you don't spend money on a bad pack. I also have Molly larges, Alice larges, Condor bags. What's that other manufacturer? I've got a bunch of rucksacks, but everyday use, everyday carry trumps the good idea fairy, as my brother Saw says. So what do I use every day? Either that Squat Survival Grassman pack or the 511 Rush 100. Saving for a Squatch pack. My understanding correct that organ meat, liver, blah, 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 is permissible under Torah. Yeah, absolutely. What you don't eat per the Torah is the subcutaneous fat that's on the liver and the kidneys.
Like
And
jelly slimy
yeah, and if
fat.
you
Ugh.
butchered deer, butchered sheep, or butchered cattle, you can tell the difference. The fat that's around the meat. I'm sorry, not subcutaneous fat. The fat that's around the meat, the subcutaneous fat that's between the skin and the meat or marbled into the meat, it's like white. It's beautiful, good to go. The visceral fat, which is around the kidneys, the liver, is yellow and gooey. And the reason you don't eat that, because remember, the Torah is about the preservation of life. What do the kidneys and the liver do? They're filters. Well, the stuff that they filter, where does it go? It's stored in that visceral fat around those organs. So organ meat, yes, for sure. But the fat around those organs, no, don't eat that. And if you've ever seen it, it's gross looking. It's not food. Like you can tell instantly looking at it, like, I don't want to eat that.
Sorry.
Been running a surplus. Uncle Sam's misguided children. Philby. It's been nice for my uses. Averages 70 pounds. Yeah, Philby's cool, man. I got a couple of bros that run Philby's. I like it. Hey, what's up, Tommy Guptill? Do. Have you ever tried the Source 35-liter patrol pack? Carried a lot in Afghanistan. It's a good kit. No, I haven't used the Source 35-liter. What's up, Iridium Group? Snowbird, Brother Ed. Hope you're well up there in Canada. What is a good hand grinder to turn wheat to flour?
The country time.
The country time. Now, we have a country time and a Catalina, and the country time is significantly more expensive than the Catalina, both of which I'm positive. I'm not making this up. Both of which I'm positive will stop handgun rounds. They may stop carbine rounds. They're very stout. Up into battle rifle and magnums, no, they're not going to stop those, but they will absolutely stop 9mm, 40, 45. They're serious. But the country time mill or country living mill, country living, country times that gay ass lemonade. The country living mill is
You are correct.
the country living mill is significantly more expensive than the Catalina, it makes significantly better flour than the Catalina.
Yeah, it's a lot finer.
A lot finer.
A lot finer. So it's got like flat metal discs that will grind, whereas the Catalina, I think, has like ridges to it. So so your grind on the Catalina ends up being a lot coarser than it does on the country time, which makes baking a little bit harder to do.
What's your thoughts on Miami? Kids or cover up? I guess you're not following me on Facebook, bro. It's okay. Also, for all those who are following me on Facebook, I'm sure you're super nice people, but I can't log on every day and have 300 new friends requests. That's just a little bit much, guys. It's just a tad too much, okay? What do I think happened in Miami? Currently? No, you don't send that many cops for a few kids causing the problem. I think black things, Nephilim, something of that sort. Have you been dehydrating anything new, my wife?
I haven't done it yet, but the pulp left over from making the Master Tonic.
Oh yeah. Well, those who aren't on Patreon don't know about
if
the
you're not on
Master
Patreon, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But we did a Master Tonic video on Patreon, and all during Sukkot, and it basically came time to finally strain the tincture, or not the tincture, but the tonic that we had made.
The guts.
Yeah, all the pulp. And so I've got jars and bags of this. I'm the only one in the house that thinks it smells absolutely delicious.
Bro, that shit is CS gas. I can't be anywhere near it. We picked up some from a friend and a neighbor who lives nearby so that my wife could dehydrate it. And I rolled all 4 windows down in the car.
It was like double bag.
It was in a Ziploc, and I took it out of the Ziploc and set it on the hood of the car for the 1/4-mile drive home. I was like, no way.
Whereas I'm like sniffing it like, oh, that smells so good.
No way.
So
I've sniffed a lot of heinous shit in my day. That stuff, negative.
So my hope is to dehydrate it and pulverize it basically and turn it into a seasoning.
And I will be living underneath a tarp in the woods for 10 days while this is happening.
Which is why I haven't done it yet, because he's been home.
Yeah. Spence T said, Bear, what is the closest that you would ever live to DC? Is the panhandle of West Virginia too close? I don't think so. Mostly because hashtag Appalachian. I've done a lot of work in West Virginia. I used to be a contractor for Allegheny Power. And so if you've ever been driving along the interstate and looked up a mountain and thought to yourself, how did they get a power line all the way up there? You're welcome. It was miserable. But there are a lot of places in West Virginia that I think people are going to be just fine. I was 19 miles back on a right-of-way for transmission line. And for those who are unaware, you can usually count the miles because typically every mile there's a gate. You have to get open, unlock the gate, drive through, close the gate again. We're 19 miles off the right-of-way, driving 4-wheel drive through a swath that had been cut in the forest for the power line to run through. And I was in the passenger seat. Buddy of mine, Noah, was driving. And there's 2-track dirt road going off the right-of-way up the side of this mountain. And he says, hey, I wonder what's up there. I said, whatever it is, we're not investigating. And he's like, okay. And just turns and starts driving up it. Thanks, bro. We go like a half a mile up this dirt road. And the whole time, the hair on the back of my neck is just standing up. And there's a single wide trailer up there. And he goes, as he says, I wonder if anybody's home. One of the curtains on the trailer gets pushed back with the barrel of a 12 gauge. I said, buddy, throw it in reverse. We need the GTFO. Let's go. Come on, let's go. And so we backed out and we left. That was 19 miles away from a paved road. And there was somebody back there just living their best life, probably cooking meth, but whatever. They were out there. They hadn't starved to death yet. And so there are areas of West Virginia that even geographically are close to DC. I would say that for tyranny, Appalachian is a non-permissive environment. And it would take a certain subset of people to be able to not just survive, but thrive out there in certain pockets of Appalachian. It's my 2 cents on that. Hey, since we're doing hardcore corporate shilling today, you want to tell them who the show is brought by today?
I mean, they have an hour before they can do anything.
What are you talking about?
I don't know. What are you talking about? Who is the show brought to? Refuge Medical?
That's a pretty good guess.
Oh, okay.
What is Refuge Medical?
Our first aid kit, the best first aid kits. They're tremendous.
Don't you work for that company?
I do.
You poor oppressed woman.
I do.
What do you do? What do you do at that company?
I am the web designer and graphics.
You also have
I am the CDO. I am the Chief Digital Officer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. You're also the CPO.
Yeah.
The
people officer.
Chief People Officer.
When people need their pee-pee schwacked, I'm your gal.
True. Hey, what's this?
That is our bear fact.
Oh yeah? Where do we make this?
In Oklahoma.
Oh, is that in Southeast Asia?
No.
Oh, okay, cool.
No, it's in the United States.
Cool. How long do I guarantee this for?
Forever.
Cool. Does this cover all of the March algorithm or just part of it?
All of it.
How many people are still
including
alive?
the March E.
Correct. How many people are still alive because of this first aid kit?
117?
112.
112.
Just 112. Don't be false advertising telling people it's 117.
Sorry.
Where do people buy this if they're worried about dying?
At this right here. Refuge Medical. Not this part.
.what?
.com.
Are there any promo codes for Gen Pop?
Bear Nation gets you free shipping.
And that's kind of a deal because shipping's expensive in 2024.
It's super expensive.
Okay, cool. You think that's enough corporate shilling for right now?
Yeah.
Should we go deliver another half an hour worth of value before we talk about money again?
Yeah.
Even though there's a tour for this, working is worth their hire.
Yeah.
And there's some punk asses in the comments who don't like it when we talk about our business that we founded in our barn right there.
On our channel.
On our channel,
yes.
that they paid $0 for.
Yeah.
Yeah. It must be tough out there, you know, drunk on mom's Mountain Dew in the basement.
Oh my gosh.
All right, what other questions do we have?
What did y'all have for dinner? Chef asking.
Oh, you haven't had dinner yet.
I mean, I had the little tiny bowl of chili when I got home.
That's true, you did. Your chili was very good.
Yeah.
But I didn't have that this evening.
No, you did not.
What did I have for dinner? I had a pan-seared 16-ounce ribeye. And then while that was resting, because I'm on the OMAD high protein game right now, 1 meal a day, high protein. While that was resting, I took 3 boneless, skinless chicken thighs, and I threw them in the cast iron that the ribeye was in, which is incredibly well seasoned. Garlic, salt, pepper, onion, 5 minutes aside in the ribeye drippings. Then let them rest. Then I ate the ribeye, and then while I was eating the ribeye, I cut the chicken, boneless, skinless chicken thighs up, and then I rolled them up in a low-carb wrap that had sriracha mayo in it and some mozzarella, and then I rolled that up into a chimichanga-looking thing, put it in the air fryer, sprayed it with olive oil, and set it on high for 10 minutes, and it came out crispy and delicious, and I ate that with a sack of Quest protein chips, which are incredible. If you're trying to do high protein, low carb type things, the Quest protein chips, which let's be honest, it's just whey protein powder that they shape like a chip, baked it, and then sprinkled seasoning on. It totally satisfies that need for a crunch. So yeah, make that one meal count, I guess. That one meal was about 1,800 to 2,000 calories. Which, even if you think from a calorie restriction standpoint, based upon my height, my body weight, and my muscle mass, that's about 1,000 calories less than I could eat in a day. So,
somebody wanted to know why the tourniquet's still in the package.
Because we send them to you this way, so that you know you're getting a brand new tourniquet.
Ours.
No, this is for shilling on the internet.
Yeah.
No,
all of our tourniquets are out of the package and properly staged.
Tell me you EDC a tourniquet without telling me you EDC a tourniquet. Look at this one. This one
is ridiculous.
Has been through some shit, right, y'all? You know it's real when it's got the pocket lint stuck to it. Cat tourniquet, a real one. Oh no, you're shot in the left arm. Go. Knocking over the bare back as he does it. But the reason we ship these in plastic is so when you get it, you know that you have a new real tourniquet. Because there are lots of fakes out there, and that's not great. Like the Bubba Gump of EDC. Thank you. I have a very robust EDC.
Mine's on my purse.
You're supposed to say the motto of Refuge Medical when you hold that up. You mean the mission statement? To save lives while in service to the Father's kingdom and experience the abundance of his provision and blessing? Track it. Do you have any predictions for 2024? I do. This could be its own video. What's up, Kyle? You okay?
Yeah, keep it short and sweet.
Eden kicking the crap out of you?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, all of these, the immigrant wave coming from the South is going to go hot prior to the 2024 elections, and that is pre-planned. It's supposed to be that way. I don't think Trump is actually going to be allowed to be on the ballot, and if they do, if they get him on the ballot, I would definitely be on the lookout for assassination attempts from him. I don't believe that China is as much as a threat as everybody makes them seem like they are, with one caveat to that. I think because China is actually in decline more so than they want anybody to admit. I mean, even Xi in his most recent statement to the Gen Pop in China admitted for the first time ever that the economy wasn't where they wanted it to be. Because China could get desperate, you could see action taken on Taiwan. But the cost-benefit analysis on Taiwan for China is not great, especially since China has been watching the war in Ukraine, trying to predicate some of the actions that they would take in Taiwan based upon what Russia did in Ukraine, and the fact that Ukraine is basically just drawn into a stalemate, which is now it's a war of attrition, which is based upon demographics and economies. And so on a long enough timeline, currently Russia wins that war in Ukraine, especially since Ukraine is losing popularity amongst the international community. So I don't think China is gonna jump, but they could. And if they do, they'll go hot and heavy because they have the opportunity to get like one good punch in, and hopefully it's a knockout blow. Now, with that, a lot of people have been talking about both Russia and China have hypersonic missiles, and the U.S. doesn't have any defenses that can take down these hypersonic missiles, and they're going to be able to destroy us that fast, except for the fact that the Russian caliber missiles and other hypersonic platforms have been shot down repeatedly in Ukraine by our 30-year-old Patriot missile system. So that kind of went out the window as well. But I would definitely look for domestic civil unrest and shenanigans related to the upcoming election in the United States. And as they continue to ramp that up again, if they don't get their way, if it's not looking like it's going to go they want it to go, I would 100% be ready for low confidence, low probability as of right now, 6 January 2024. But I would 100% be looking for pandemic 2.0 because it's a control mechanism. And we all know that it's a control mechanism. And boom, there goes my channel. I just got risky criskied probably. So, Bear, you're shot in the arm. Go. Raven, look harder. Already been shot in the arm. So, there's soy in them Quest chips. Well, that's good to know. Accelerated. I think I get enough sawdust and whiskey in my beard to counteract the soy in the Quest chips. Have you tried out the RMT tourniquet?
I might ask about a different tourniquet too. What was it? Tacticon.
Tacticon?
Yeah.
I've never heard of it.
Like, is it Committee on TCCC approved?
Recommended. They don't approve anything, because if they did approve it, then they would face potential backlash when the thing failed. But they recommend certain tourniquets, and they don't recommend certain tourniquets. They recommend this one first, the Cat Gen 6 and Gen 7 from Cat Resources, which is a tertiary company to North American Rescue. They recommend the Soft T and the Soft T Wide, but now all of the TACMed makes the Soft Ts, and all of them are the wides, and so good to go. They recommend the TMT, Tactical Medical Tourniquet. They recommend the SAM, what the hell is that thing called? SAM XT or SXT or whatever tourniquet, which is gigantic. That's the reason I don't like that one. It's huge, and it doesn't do anything the Cat doesn't do. And they recommend the, what are those ratcheting ones called? There's two different types. TXT or MXT or TMT. Let me have my phone over there. Tontu, love. I'll tell you. They recommend Cat Gen 6 and Gen 7, the RMT, Ratcheting Medical Tourniquet, the SAM XT, SAM Extremity Tourniquet, the Soft T Wide, the TMT, Tactical Mechanical Tourniquet, and the TX2 and TX3 Ratcheting Tourniquets. I've used all of these. Of all the ones that I've used, the best for use in load-bearing equipment or any type of loadout is the Cat. This is the fastest, most intuitive to use, best design for load-bearing equipment, whether that's tactical or law enforcement, EMS, and fire. These are the best. Also, same thing for your motor vehicles. These are the best. For EDC, the best, in my opinion, is the Soft T Wide. Now the Soft T, because they make all of them wide, because it has a much smaller form factor. I also have, and have had my eyes on for a year, the ETQ, Snake Staff Systems Everyday Tourniquet. And I've reviewed those here. They are not committee on TCCC recommended because they have like 0 uses or just a handful of uses thus far. And so I want them to be awesome, but there are things that they need to improve in order for them to be awesome. They're good right now. I want them to be awesome because I want 24 different great tourniquet options on the market. I want yay capitalism to work here. But the thing is, with a tourniquet, if you fail to solve that problem appropriately, you'll never have to worry about it again. You really get one shot at it. And so that's why the leaders in the industry are the ones that have been used tens of thousands of times successfully, the cat and the soft T. Everything else just doesn't have the body of work, the corpus of data to pull from to go definitively, that's a good one, I'll carry that. Soft T for if they had their limb pinned or caught. That's called impingement, Joshua St. Pierre, and you can use the soft T for that, but you can also use the cat if you have an impinged limb. Let me show you. Undo this. Pull this out. We teach this in Responder 1. Pull this out, go around the impinged limb, go back through the buckle, good to go. The reason EMTs and to a lesser extent firefighters like the soft T for impinged limbs is the same reason law enforcement officers like Glocks, because Glock has had a program for decades to get Glocks in the hand of law enforcement officers, just like TACMED has had a program for decades to get soft Ts in the hand of emergency medical technicians. But both can be used on an impinged limb, a cat or a soft T. All right, what other questions? When are you getting multicam stomp bags back in stock? When they're available. When's that? Don't know. You know, and it brief.
Isn't that one going?
Brief admittance of frustration. I've told y'all since COVID hit that our industry, the medical industry, was getting weird and that things are going to become less available and they're harder and harder to get. And a lot of people didn't take me seriously. Now, a bunch of y'all did, but a lot of people didn't. And then we get questions all the time like, hey, I saw this thing was in stock yesterday. It's out of stock today. When's it going to come back? Buddy, I don't know if it's ever going to come back. Like, that's just the facts of it. And I also really don't try to fearmonger anybody. I don't want you to buy our shit because you're afraid. I want you to buy our shit because you're being proactive, right? That's why. And I unapologetically am posturing Refuge Medical to be the first aid kit company for preparedness. All these other companies, that even if they know their stuff as far as institutional knowledge, their kits are shit. Okay. Well, we know our stuff as far as institutional knowledge is concerned, and our kits aren't shit. And our avatar, the person I'm best equipped to help are people like me, which is y'all. So why not focus on preparedness? Because, again, what other preparedness product has saved 112 people's lives in the last 4 years? Name it. I'll wait. Okay, so they actually work. But I mean it when I say, guys, shit's weird. Also, when I first started this company, the way we were able to stay in business and make money was by through what's called economy of scale. If you buy one tourniquet, it's $30. You buy 10 tourniquets, they're $29. You buy 100, they're $28. You buy 1,000, they're $27. You buy a pallet, they're $25. And so economy of scale, you buy in large volume, and then you retail at the individual price. Business insight, that's how that works. Economy of scale went away February 24th, 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine. It does not exist anymore. My price is my price when I buy from my vendors, whether I buy 1 unit or 10,000 units. The end. You add to that, there's a little company called Henry Schein. You might do some research into that. It's a major medical international conglomerate that's been buying up the producers of trauma medicine components. And intentionally, they put out memos to all their vendors. We, over the next 24 months, will be doubling our prices on everything. Act accordingly. And then people complain when they're like, well, that kit's $269. Like, it might be $369 4 months from now, depending on what the market does. So we do our best. I don't know when that bag is going to be back in stock. When we get it from the sew shop, we'll pack it full of stuff and we'll put it for shop. You should sign up for the email notifications on the website, because let's say I'm getting 10 of those in. If there are 8 people on the wait list via email, you will get an email before we put them live back in the store, which will give you an opportunity to buy those things on the day that that email comes out before I put them back in the store. And if there's 8 people on the waiting list, when it comes back in stock, we'll sell those 8 people whatever kit it is that they want to buy, and then I'll put 2 back in stock in the store. So we try, and there's only so many moves that one can make in 2024 in this ridiculous geopolitical, international economic climate that we're in. That's one of the ways that we're trying to solve that problem. How dare you make a marginal profit? I know, Alexander. Everything should be free. Hold on. Where's my Karl Marx book?
Right.
I like Warrior Poet Society, but I seriously doubt they're producing a superior IFAC. And that's another thing. Whatever brand resonates with you, go with them. I don't know of anybody on the market that makes a better IFAC than we do. And I've tested all of them. One of the things you guys may not be privy to is I take my own money and I buy shit from everybody because I want to see what everybody else is doing. And it's, in most cases, abysmal. And in the best cases, marginal. And the reason for that is people are trying to produce a price point kit because the industry has been commoditized. And that's stupid. That's stupid. Why would you commoditize life-saving equipment? Now, it should be achievable. Every man and every woman should be able to afford this stuff. But if you commoditize life-saving equipment, it becomes a race to the bottom, which means everybody is now building their businesses around price point, which means you are getting a subpar product, which means when you use this equipment to try and save a life, because it's price point bullshit, people can die. And I won't have that on my conscience. That's immoral, if you ask me. And so we don't participate in the price point bullshit game. Best kit for a timber faller, either of our leather kits, the Woodsman, or the what did I call the other one? The Woodsman and the something else, 2 leather kits. And then on your belt, get an SOB. If you want something in ballistic nylon, get a red SOB, put it on your faller's belt. It weighs 1 pound, dude. It's tiny. It's that big. And it's got everything you need for chainsaw accidents. Ask me how I know. Or impalements. Ask me how I know.
Somebody wanted to know if we had tested Rescue Essentials. Don't they run recon?
No.
No.
Well, they have.
Yeah.
Yes, I have. Unimpressed with Rescue Essentials. Best way to ruck an M82 107 to an LPOP. Well, be hydrated, get a good night of sleep before, have some friends with you, and have really strong legs, and stop often to rest as needed. May I ask about the Monday men's group over on Patreon? Yes, you may. What's up, Matt? So every Monday evening, there's a link to Men's Group Monday that's posted where the guys over there in the men's group on Patreon get together and discuss the Bible. If you attend enough of those and you make yourself known in the group, you may get an invite. It's at discretion. You may get an invite to the Shabbat Zoom call as well. But be respectful, participate, ask good questions, be attentive, show up on time, and good to go. Do you guys have a budget option for water filters or stick to Berkey? For like a large filter, we use Berkeys. For small filtration, we use Sawyers, or like a Katadyn or an MSR pump filter. Bear, have you done a ruck from work to home? Raven, no. Also, I'm not going to tell you how far it is from work to home.
Very true.
All glory to Jesus the Christ. Yes, comma. There ain't no J in Hebrew. Read Matthew chapter 1. Or go see YouTube shows that all show 95% of the time is bearing his kits. Yeah, I mean, the industry is starting to accept Refuge Medical as the top tier option for medical, which I think is great. It's taken a lot of effort to get there.
Bear, have you been training? What weight are you training with?
Yes, stand by. Jonathan, Bear, what are your thoughts on Daniel, Bell and the Dragon? Jonathan, I'm going to need you to wait 6 days for the video that I recorded this morning, Daniel 5 and 6, where I specifically address Bell and the Dragon and talk about it. But in the meanwhile, I would encourage everybody to read not just canonical Daniel's 1 through 12, but non-canonical Daniel, extra biblical Daniel as well. What was the question? Am I rucking currently? Yes, but not a whole lot because my spine is uncooperative, comma. I plan on rucking more over the next couple of weeks to build back up for the Refuge Ruckus, which is coming up again March 8th through 10th, 2024 in Fort Smith. And I will be rucking at the Ruckus with 50.5 pounds. The reason for that is the average human trafficking survivor is a 12-year-old female, and the average weight of a 12-year-old female is 101 pounds. And so I will be carrying one half of that survivor, and another brother will be carrying another half of that survivor. Now, 50.5 pounds for me is a light ruck. I, on average, carry no less than 65 pounds in the rucksack. And when I've got all my gear on, I'm well into the 90s. You add a rifle into that, I'm over 100 pounds of gear. Is there a baby registry, Paladin 1? Yes, it was posted on Patreon a few weeks ago, mostly because the patrons were blowing us up that we needed to post it. So
should we post it there?
I mean, if you want to, you can. Have you been using the back stretchy tool? I have, bro. It hurt my back, man.
You thought he was going to die.
I really appreciate the thought, but it hurt my back. When you are rucking, where do you keep your compass? I keep my compass in my chest rig, in front pocket on my chest rig, tied to my chest rig so that I don't get stupid and drop it somewhere. 50.5 pounds is very heavy for me to ruck past 1 mile. Well, 6'2", there's multiple different categories at the Ruckus, weight classes if you want to be involved. And I didn't start carrying between, on a slick day, 70 pounds all in, and on a regular day, 100 plus pounds in, and on a heavy day, 120 to 140 pounds all in. I didn't start there at all. But I've been rucking in earnest for the last 6 years, and I've been rucking part-time for a decade. Any classes near Kansas City this year? No. There are classes near Spiro, Oklahoma this year. My arms are long. Any risk the thigh carry? Oh, Helen, I'm going to need more context than that. Carrying what on your thigh? Where? What? Is it a pistol? What kind of pistol? What platform is it in? Do you train with it? Do you know how to use it? Why do you need a drop leg holster? So here's the thing. Drop leg holsters are cool operationally. They're not so cool when you're running because you have all that rotational mass below your hips. And they're, at least for me, they're also not cool when you're rucking long distances because you still have all that rotational mass and you have that stupid leg strap that chews into the inside of your thigh. And that's probably fine when you're like dry and warm, but you cross one creek or stream or river and now everything's soaking wet and you got that damn rubber band latched around your leg and it's going to chew you apart. How do you become self-sufficient and buy land in this crappy economy? Fernie, you read the book Creating a Life Together by Diana Leaf Christensen, a recommendation from Pastor Joe Fox at Viking Preparedness. You find some homeboys or homegirls. You make a covenant, you make a pact, you buy the land, you start from essentially zero, and you build your way up from there. Yeah, Alexander, I'm not answering that. Any tips on producing products out of pocket with a small budget? Yes. Do not try and reverse engineer what you think the market wants or needs. The market is always in charge. The market tells you what you want, what it wants. And your job is to provide to the market what it wants, not what you think it should want or what you think it needs. Now, for example, let's say you find yourself in the niche of tactical medicine and you develop something like the Bearfac. Okay. I know from market data, the Bearfac represents just shy of 19% of our overall sales at Refuge Medical. Of all the different kits that we have, far and away, the number one seller is the Bearfac. So if I could only have one product, it'd be the Bearfac. Start a website called bearfac.com, and that's all it would be. There was Bearfacs, and I'd streamline my entire operation to just produce, to market, sell, fulfill, and ship Bearfacs, because that's what the market has said that it wanted. There's other kits that the market has said it doesn't want. Okay, within that same niche, guess what? We don't sell those anymore. So I would do my market research first. And when you launch the product, launch a great product. What's up, Brother Gas? Launch a great product. Don't half-ass the product, because if the product isn't great, you're going to spend way more time and money marketing the product and iterating on the product to make it good than if you just got it right in the first place. How do you feel about a revolver on your chest on a plate carrier, not a Strike Fire Compact 44 Magnum? I mean, I suppose you could do that, Spartan. I would like to have the muzzle at least pointed down to the ground at an angle rather than just, horizontal carry for reasons. Plate carriers are already pretty heavy. 44 Magnums are also already pretty heavy. Why you would need a plate carrier mounted 44 Magnum? Here's my thoughts on this. If I have a plate carrier on, I'm going to have a rifle. If I have a rifle, why do I need a handgun? Now, I realize we've romanticized handguns as a culture, and I'm currently wearing one. The reason you have a handgun, two reasons. One is in case you have a malfunction on your rifle, then you have to transition. But how many of y'all are doing CQB? And how much of that could be fixed by like just absolutely owning tap rack bang drills with a rifle? And two, the reason you have a handgun is to fight your way back to the rifle that you should have had in the first place. Because I can't. The 44 Magnum just makes a metric shit ton of horsepower out the muzzle. Is it more than a 5.56, 7.62 39, 7.62 by 51? Probably not. So why am I going to strap 2 pounds of steel onto my chest that already weighs a shit ton? There's something to be said from a patrolling standpoint. I'm not taking a pistol at all. I have my rifle. What do I need the pistol for? In case I have to transition. To what? If they're 300 yards away over there, what am I going to do with this pistol? Well, in case we get in some shit, you and your little patrolling element, you're going to get in some shit to the point where we've expended all the rifle ammunition that we have, and now I'm down to a pistol. Maybe, but incredibly unlikely. And being perfectly frank, nowadays, when I'm rucking, it's probably 50-50 as to whether or not I have a pistol on at all. And if we're running a training op where I have to ruck a significant amount of distance, more than a few miles, pistol doesn't come with me because I have a rifle and I can see in the dark. So, is there a place in your arsenal for a pump shotgun? Any reason why or why not? Absolutely. There's a place for pump shotguns. We own multiple pump shotguns. We train everybody how to use pump shotguns, and they're great because, in the words of Clint Smith, the right shotgun with the right loading at the right range will literally pick shit up and throw it against the wall. I love shotguns. They're great. Their rounds limited, but they have a shit ton of firepower. See, Striker Cade, I'm not actually on the semi-auto train when it comes to shotguns. I have a bunch of buddies that have semi-auto shotguns, and when we go and shoot skeet, they spend a lot of time fixing malfunctions on those things. And my Mossberg 500s just keep running, homie. They just keep running. And if you train with a pump shotgun, again, what's the problem that the shotgun is solving? Okay, home defense, probably. Homestead defense, maybe the next most likely thing. We're not clearing the house with a shotgun. There's small uses for an offensive 12-gauge shotgun. But you're not a soldier. I'm not a soldier. You're not surrounded by soldiers. You don't have Uncle Sam's log train. You don't have telehealth that you can call, your medic can call if you get shot, stabbed, blown up so he can perform prolonged field care on you. You don't have any of that. So why are we going to go bang doors with a 12 gauge and SHTF? So I don't think that even then a semi-auto, for me, I've counted the cost on this. I have real world experience with them. Are they cool? Yeah, they're cool. So much firepower so quick. Okay. Cool. If I put that first round where it needs to go, bang, rack the slide, bang, I could be on 2 targets just about as fast as a semi-auto can, and I have the maintenance of that platform is so much simpler on a pump shotgun. I mean, you give me a flathead screwdriver, I'm looking at a pump shotgun. I can take that thing apart and put it back together again in under 5 minutes with a flathead screwdriver. Clean it, oil it, good to go, back in business. So I'm a huge fan of pump shotguns. We have 20s and we have 12s. And I like the 20s for women and children, and I like the 12s for everybody else. What's up, Tabar? So, well, Tabar brings up box-fed semi-automatic shotguns. I've seen many box-fed semi-automatic shotguns fail, not because of the magazine or the shotgun. And if you have a box-fed magazine, it is a critical component of the platform. We're so used to like PMags working in AR-15s and Glock mags working in Glocks that we assume that all box magazines work in all platforms, and that's not true. The issue with the semi-automatic box-fed shotguns has been the deformation of the shotgun shells because they're plastic under spring tension inside the magazine. And so if you leave those magazines loaded, you can get deformation of the shotgun shells, which causes jams inside the semi-automatic shotgun. I've seen that happen on multiple occasions. So with Segas and with Mossbergs and with the others, the Turkish clones. And so, I mean, box fed as in semi-rifles, roger that. And so even with the semi-automatic box fed shotgun, if you didn't just thumb those shells into that magazine, you can get reliability issues from that, which again, pump shotgun, too easy. You shoot, that's your gun right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You like it?
I do.
Why do you like it?
Because it's easy. It's like point and click.
There you go.
And you're going to hit something.
Can you recommend any tactical training for noobs? What's up, Michelle Diaz? Yes.
Yeah, that's a good question, too.
Okay, we'll get that one next. Have you got it pulled up?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, I'll get that one next. Yes, go see Carl from Tactical Rifleman, tacticalrifleman.com, I believe. Carl. And one of the guys that he works with is a great guy by the name of Imre Morgenstern. And Imre runs Prime Combat Training. Go see Imre, Prime Combat Training. Go to Camden, Tennessee, and go to Tactical Response and take a class with Joey or any of the other instructors that are there. Yeah, I'd start with those 3. Those are all people that I know personally that do really good work that I would trust to train my wife.
Heather said, what's your favorite verse from the scriptures, the one that speaks to you the most in this season of your earthly life?
Easy peasy. It's the same one that's spoken to me for a decade. Exodus 15, verse 3. Yahweh is a warrior. Yahweh is his name. And why? Okay, cool story, Bear. Why? Well, it touches on two things that I think modern Christianity absolutely glosses over. The first is Yahweh, the Lord your God, is a warrior, and you are fearfully and wonderfully created in his image, and he loves and protects his people. And so if you ever find yourself in a jam, good news. Yah's a warrior. He can handle it. Yeshua himself says, do not fear he who can destroy the body, but fear he who can destroy the soul. Fear Yah. Right? Joshua, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord, Yahweh, your Elohim. So he's a warrior, and we're created in his image. Love that. The second is Yahweh is his name. And so in the King James and all derivative translations from there, you get the Lord is his name, which is bullshit because the Lord is a title, not a name. His name is the Tetragrammaton, Yod, He, Vav, He, Yahuwah, Yahweh, Yahavah, Jehovah. Pick a pronunciation. Although, again, I'll remind you, there's no J in Hebrew. Facts, look it up. Google's a thing. Yahweh is his name. And with that, Yahweh is his name. I'll give you a really quick lesson. Yod, Hey, sorry. Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey. This is his name in Paleo Hebrew. Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey. That's how you spell his name in Paleo Hebrew. That's his name. Now, what does that mean? Let me give you a little unlock for Christianity right here. In Matthew 22, verses 36 through 40, the Pharisees and the Sadducees are trying to jam up Messiah. They say, Rabbi, what's the greatest command in all the Torah? Messiah answers, there are two. The first is, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. Deuteronomy 6, verse 5. The second is like unto it, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. On this hangs all the Torah and the prophets. Now in John 17, Yeshua prays for his apostles, and he says, I have revealed your name to these men whom you have given to me out of the world. Revealed your name. What is his name? Yahuwah. Yod He Vav He. Look at this. Outstretched arm to this little man right here. Yod He. Love your neighbor. Reach out to your neighbor. Love your neighbor as yourself. Vav He. Upstretched arm. Love Yah with everything that you've got. His name is the answer that Messiah gives in Matthew 22:36. And in his name, Yod He Vav He, you see the two prime directives, general orders number 1 and number 2. Love him with everything that you've got. Love your neighbor as yourself. And he is a warrior. That's why, that's my life verse, if you will. Amazing, is Erica Becker.
Yeah, she was she asked what the tetra word was again.
Tetragrammaton?
Yeah.
Say it's spelled the way it sounds. Imagine you tried to anglicize a big Greek word, tetragrammaton. It just means the name of Yahweh. Yod He Vav He. Rain Cat. What's up, girl? I saw a question, but that was a while ago before I got on the most important subject of the evening, the name of Yahweh. Sorry, I got a little distracted. Oh, yeah, that's what it was. Somebody asked, how would you describe the faith? And I see you answered him in the chat. The answer is we read the Bible and we do what it says. And I'll be frank with you. I have, through Caleb House, had to hunt so many people who have identified themselves as Torah observant that it sickens me and makes me want to puke and makes me enraged at the same time that these pieces of shit would take the name of Yah and put his stamp of approval on their bullshit.
Well, I feel like so many people feel like they have to put a label on it.
Yeah.
It's like, no.
I'm a follower of Messiah.
Exactly.
I read the Bible and I do what it says. Simple as that. But I will not pigeonhole myself into any label, not any of the 54,000 different denominations. Even to say I'm Torah observant asks, it invites the question of, well, Which laws? You know, you can't do all the laws, but like, I know, homie, pump the brakes. You think I didn't figure that shit out? I'm aware. Like, I'm aware. I know. And that probably sounds weird to hear coming from a guy that has been ordained as a pastor. Praise Yah. I'm a little bit different than everybody else. I still swear like a sailor, and I will still absolutely punch you in the face. But I also love Yah with everything that I've got. And I will punch you in the face if you're being unrighteous for the preservation of life. I will protect me and mine till there is not any breath left in my lungs or any blood left in my body. Period. The end. All enemies, foreign and domestic. And I will use 4-letter words because that's the way I talk, and the Father knows my heart. And if I don't use 4-letter words, there's somebody out there, some soldier, sailor, airman, marine, construction worker, law enforcement officer, ex-con, that doesn't want to hear some slick back, well-dressed preacher talking to them about Jesus, but they will resonate with somebody saying, you know what, that's bullshit. Because they talk and act and think the same way. And John, Yochanan, John the Immerser, the description that Yeshua gives of John the Immerser to the Pharisees is precious. What did you think you were going to find when you went into the wilderness? A soft man? A man of soft speech? No, but a man of Elohim. And it's all these sugar-coated, do-right, super nice guys and girls that have been indoctrinated in big C Christianity that feel like if you say a word that's a swear word or a curse word, if I make certain sounds with my mouth, that means that I'm not following Jesus. That's a hell of an accusation to make. And it flies in the face of A, the corpus of work here on this channel, B, the multiple good works the Father has blessed us to be able to do in his name over the last decade. The proof is in the pudding. You shall know them by their works. And if people don't like the way I talk, that's fine. There's lots of other ways they can spend their time than listening to what I have to say. But when you attempt to rebuke somebody, you're putting a stumbling block in front of everybody that person could be reaching with the gospel, with the good news, with the redemption of Messiah, because you're telling that person to close their mouth, which means if that person is ordained from Yahuwah, which probably flies in the face of all the indoctrination you've ever received in your entire life because they're not a really nice guy. If that person is ordained by the Father and you tell them to shut their mouth, you are working counter to the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, and that is the only biblically unforgivable sin in the book. So be careful when you shoot your mouth off to somebody else about how you think they should sound, what you think they should say. Everybody's walking out their own path. And my mission from Elohim may be and probably is different than your mission from Elohim. But don't armchair quarterback somebody else's walk in the faith. That's complete and utter bullshit. And you demoralize them when you do that. And you're working counter to the Ruach HaKodesh. And that shit's unforgivable. So I'll shut up now. Apparently PJ's here. Shalom, PJ. I don't know. A bunch of people said it's Shalom PJ in the chat, so I'm assuming he's here.
I don't think I saw him.
I don't know. There's 800 people here, so.
Ben, never mind. How did you guys start celebrating the feast, and do you keep all of them? I started the Sabbath a year ago, eat clean, and want to grow on this walk.
Yes. We do keep all the feasts. How we celebrate them, I've put 2 videos together here in Gen Pop on YouTube about what the practical application of the feasts looks like for us. We do celebrate all of them. They're all found in Leviticus chapter 23, the first of which that is listed is the weekly Shabbat. Sundown Friday through sundown Saturday. Why sundown? It's a pattern in the Bible that everything begins in darkness and moves towards light. The earth was dark and without form and was void, Genesis 1, and then it moves towards the light. Mankind was in darkness because of the sin of Adam and moves towards the light of Mashiach. Everything begins in darkness and moves towards light. So sundown Friday through sundown Saturday, Shabbat, the weekly Shabbat, the weekly day of rest. And for those who are like, well, Jesus paid it all, I don't have to do that anymore. You're wrong biblically. Read Shaul of Tarsus, everybody's favorite Pharisee. And so there remains a Sabbath keeping for the people of Elohim, Hebrews, tracking. B, have you ever tried it? Have you ever tried it? Because it's tremendous and you're commanded to do it. If your dentist commanded you that you have an appointment next Tuesday at 10 a.m., you'd be there. But somehow, when God commands you that you have an appointment every week Friday at sundown, you're like, man, I'll think about it. Tina's having that cocktail party. I really wanted to go to that cocktail party. I really wanted to be inwardly focused on my shit, not what the Creator wants me to do. So I'm just going to, because I'm saved, I have grace, I'm just going to go spit in the face of the Creator and go do whatever I want to do instead of what He tells me to do. Yeah, the burden of this law. So the first is the weekly Shabbat. And then you have the spring feast, which is Passover, unleavened bread, and first fruits. And that's an 8-day period that begins with the Pesach, the Passover. Then you have a week of unleavened bread. And somewhere in that week of unleavened bread, there's a weekly Shabbat. And then the day after that weekly Shabbat is the Feast of First Fruits. Very basic observation. For us, the way we do it, and some of y'all are going to say, I don't have sheep, I can't do it that way. That's fine. As my brother, Pastor Joe, says here somewhere in the chat, apparently, do the best you can with what you've got where you're at. The Father desires an obedient heart more than He desires burnt offerings. That's repeated all throughout the prophets, which if people would read their Bible, they would know that. We get a sheep, and I take a knife, and I take that sheep, and I lay it down on its side. I take a knife, and I slice that sheep's neck, and I let the blood out. And I am literally covered by the blood of the Lamb on Pesach, Passover. And it is like a funeral. You can feel the spiritual weightiness in the air. That this blood that is on my hands and on my blade and on my legs and my arms, that's the blood of my Messiah. And my sins did this. I did this to Yeshua. And He took it for me. And I am an unworthy piece of shit. And the grace is I should have been dead in my sin, but I'm not. Because He loved us enough. For Yah so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in Him shall have life everlasting. I did this, and He took it freely. No man takes my life. I lay it down freely. And then we take that sheep and we move it to a fire pit that we've prepared. And we roast it whole over the fire. And the progression of the day goes from what feels like the death of a loved one and a funeral. And as the day progresses, moves on and on towards this joyous occasion where we're in unity. It's a holy convocation, and we get together and we praise Yah. We thank Him for the atoning sacrifice of His Son. And we do this in remembrance of Him. We partake in the Pesach. And we do take the blood of the Lamb and we put it over the doorposts and the lintel of the house so that we are literally, Exodus 12, covered by the blood of the Lamb. That's what Passover looks like for us. If you don't have a lamb, get a piece of meat. Do what you can with what you have. And then unleavened bread. Leaven biblically represents sin and false doctrine. And removing the leaven from your house. And by the way, it's unleavened bread. It's not all the things that have leaven in them. It's the feast of unleavened bread, because leaven is everywhere. It's literally in the air. That's how sourdough works, which makes you aware of the fact that no matter how diligently you clean your house, there's always going to be some sin, some false doctrine in your life. If you ever see some slick-haired, slick-back, well-dressed preacher passing a silver plate saying a little leaven leavens the whole lump, brother, that guy didn't read his Bible. Why would you make that reference when you're trying to fundraise for the church? Leaven is sin and false doctrine. And so you get the leaven out of your house for 7 days and you eat unleavened bread. Now, we make our unleavened bread from scratch right there in my kitchen. Myriad videos on that on Patreon. Search for matzah or unleavened bread. We'll show you how we do it. And that breaks you out of your typical daily pattern every day where you're making this unleavened bread. You're not partaking in any other type of bread, and it breaks that cycle, which causes an internal reflection. And there's the thing is the prophetic nature of the feasts, right? Spring feasts, Passover, unleavened bread, first fruits. Yeshua is the atoning sacrifice. The death passes us over. He removes sin and false doctrine from our life by his atoning sacrifice, and he is the first fruits of the resurrection. These are all prophetic of Messiah. And then on first fruits, somewhere in there, in that 8-day period of the spring feasts, on the morrow after the Sabbath, so whatever the weekly Sabbath is, you have first fruits. And then first fruits, you bring an offering made by fire to Yah. And it's literally the first fruits of our garden. We take that, and it's in the spring, so stuff's barely coming up, and it's a meager little offering. We build a fire, and we bring it to the Father, and we thank him for this. And it's humbling. All I have to give you is this little tiny bit, and I wouldn't even have this if it wasn't for you. That's the spring feasts. Then on the morrow after the Sabbath, from Pesach, whatever that weekly Sabbath is, you count for yourself 7 weeks. And then on the morrow after that Sabbath, 50 days, Pentecost, you have Shavuot, or the Feast of Weeks. Shavuot is the day that the Father makes and reestablishes covenants with his people. The day that Noah walks off the ark and makes a burnt offering, Shavuot. The day that Abraham was going to slay Isaac, Shavuot. And the Father provided a ram, which is, of course, prophetic of the coming of Messiah. The day that the law, the Torah, is given on Mount Sinai, Shavuot. The whole reason for the Exodus, which if you're doing weekly Torah portions, today's portion was Shemot, Exodus. These are the names, people fleeing from Egypt to go and worship in the wilderness. They were going to worship Shavuot. The day the Holy Spirit descends in Acts chapter 2 on 3,000 people, Shavuot. Okay, so it's the day that the Father makes and reestablishes covenants with his people. What is the renewed covenant under Messiah? Hebrews chapter 8, verses 6 through 13. So new, it's so new that it's a direct quote from Jeremiah chapter 31, verses 31 through 34. And paraphrasing, Messiah is the intercessor in between the Father and us because sin cannot exist in the presence of the Father. And so he speaks on our behalf. He covers us with his atoning sacrifice of blood so that sin is removed from us. Now, what is sin? Cornerstone of the man's ministry was the removal of sin from you. And nobody in Christendom can define it, even though it's clearly defined word for word verbatim in 1 John 3, verse 4, New Testament, the Apostle John, Yochanan. Sin is lawlessness, and all who do sin do lawlessness. Well, in Messiah, there is no sin. There was no lawlessness in him. He never broke Torah, the law. Shall we sin all the more so that grace may abound? No. Yah forbid. God forbid you continue to sin. You continue in your Torahlessness after you've received the grace of Messiah. The grace is you should have been dead per the Torah, and you're not, because you were redeemed, bought and paid for with a price that you couldn't pay. And there's a Torah for redemption to become a bondservant in the house of the master, Messiah. You work for him now because he paid your debts. And 1 Peter 2:21, for this we are called that Messiah, having suffered for our sins, that we might walk in his steps to do what he did. So you're supposed to walk the way he walked, and there was no sin, no lawlessness in him. So Shavuot, we make a burnt offering. Now this is 50 days later than the spring feast, so we have more to bring as an offering to Yah as a sign of thanks. And also, this is not biblical, but it's become a tradition amongst us at Bear Camp. The things that we are stumbling over that have become an idol to us, we throw those in the fire. And we confess that in front of our brothers and our sisters in Elohim. This thing has been keeping me from you. Thank you for your mercy, that you loved me enough to tolerate me while I was stumbling over this thing. I'm giving this to you. And that's how we do Shavuot. Then you go into the fall feasts. There's 7 total feasts. The first 4 have been fulfilled, embodied, play Ra'u, Matthew 5:17 by Messiah, and then you go into the fall feasts, which have not happened yet. They will happen literally and prophetically during the second coming of Mashiach, which is a whole nother teaching. But Messiah comes twice. The reason he comes twice is because he is the first and only begotten son of Elohim. And the son, firstborn, gets 3, the triune blessing. He gets the kingship. No king but Jesus, King of kings, Lord and lords. He gets the priesthood, an order, a priest, a high priest in the order of Melchizedek forever, the book of Hebrews. And he gets the double portion. So he's coming twice. Now, in the Old Testament prophecy, there's 2 major columns of prophecy on Messiah. One is Mashiach ben Joseph, the suffering servant who atones for the Father's people. The other is Mashiach ben David, the righteous king in the line of King David, who comes with a sword to return the Father's people to the Father by reestablishing the Torah. Yeah. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, proof text on this. By the way, if all this is hitting you like a ton of bricks, go back, rewind this, write down all of my biblical cross references, and try all of this. Test all of this against the word. Do not take my word for it. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. The man of lawlessness is the Antichrist, and the working of lawlessness is the working of Satan, says the Apostle Paul, Shaul of Tarsus, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. So then you go into the fall feasts. I apologize, I'm a little worked up right now, but you asked me a question I had an answer to. Fall feasts. We have trumpets, atonement, Sukkot. Deeply prophetic. Trumpets. Trumpets is a holy convocation. You make an offering made by fire. That's all it says. You blow your shofar. You eat meat spun over a fire, and you hang out with your homies. And that's what we do. Usually there's a sheep involved. On occasion it's been cattle. As the fathers continue to bless our fellowship and it grows and grows, we've gone from needing a lamb to needing a full-blown sheep to needing a couple of sheep. And there have been times where we've put an entire cow over a fire. Praise Yah. So trumpets is basic. It's easy. Blow your trumpets, make an offering by fire, hang out with your homies. And that's what we do. And this is the signaling of the coming king, the blowing of the shofar, announcing the coming of the king. Book of Revelation. The bowl judgments, the trumpet judgments, the 7 seals. Trumpets. Atonement. Yom Kippur. Atonement. A day of sackcloth and ashes where you afflict your beings. You don't eat. You fast for 24 hours. Now, if you're pregnant, nursing, have a medical condition, maybe press pause on that. But if you're an able-bodied individual, you fast for 24 hours. I fasted yesterday because the Spirit told me to. Because it's not a thing. You fast for 24 hours. And while you're fasting, you afflict your beings and supplicate your being. Put your knees on the ground, your face in the dirt, and cry out to Yah and confess everything. Atonement at 1 minute. It's a time to realign vertically with the Father. You don't eat. You confess your sins. If you've wronged anybody, you reach out to them and say, I'm so sorry for the way that I hurt you. Please forgive me. I beg of you. I was wrong. And then at sundown, you break your fast. Typically, we do that with our homies. Pro tip, don't clean the grill during atonement, especially if the last thing you cooked was beef bacon on the grill, because 92 people will want to stab you in the throat. That's what we do for atonement. Atonement. Fasting and afflicting your beings. Book of Revelation, second coming, anybody? Jeremiah, there will be a famine in end times and a famine for the word. Yeah. And then Sukkot, 8-day festival. Sukkot, Feast of Tabernacles, the festival of indwelling. 8 days. Why 8? Because if you draw the number 8 and you turn it sideways, you get infinity. That's the numerical importance of the number 8 in the Bible. Forever. Sukkot is prophetic of dwelling together with the Father forever in unity. Read the end of the book, Revelation 21, Revelation 22. And during Sukkot, practical application, we go to the wilderness, which might be a state park. It might be somebody's backyard. It might be wherever. and we live in temporary dwellings. We pitch our tents and we live communally together for 8 days. We eat food cooked over a fire. You're seeing a concept here. We hang out with our homies, blow our shofars, eat food cooked over a fire. We give thanks. We sing praise and worship. We have corporate prayer, corporate Bible study. The kids play, and we chill for 8 days, and we worship Elohim in the wilderness. And that whole pattern of feasts is prophetic. That's what the practical application of feasts looks like for us. So that was 20 minutes of me running my mouth. Hope there was some value in there for you. I'm interested in the fact that there were 798 people here when I started talking, and now there's 835. I truly expected that number to go down once I started talking about these things. Yep. So hopefully that answers your question.
Well, and along the biblical term.
Sorry, Dad.
Somebody asked, what is the difference between the scriptures and the
KJV?
Yeah.
So I have an entire video based upon that. Why do I use the scriptures as an EDC Bible? You can look up on YouTube Bear's Bible for Torah Study. There's a handful of reasons I use the scriptures every day. I can see mine from where I'm sitting. I've had my nose in it most of the day today because it's Shabbat. The first reason, the predominant reason that I like it, is that the scriptures is not a translation of a translation. It's a new translation based on original source texts. And so the translators for that book labored over the original source texts for like a decade and a half with the goal of trying to undo all the damage that has been done by the KJV and subsequent translations with the omissions of certain verses, the omissions of certain chapters, the addition of certain words, the changing of names, undo all of that bullshit and go back to the original source texts and translate directly from that. And so I really appreciate that they were trying to get as close to the original unadulterated word of Yah as possible. That's the key driver for me. The next is it preserves sacred names. Yod He Vav He, Yahuwah, Yahweh, Yahweh, rather than the Lord. Again, one of y'all asked, what's your life verse? Exodus 15:3. Yahuwah is a warrior. Yahuwah is his name. The Lord is not his name. Okay? So I like the fact that it has the Yod He Vav He, the Tetragrammaton in there in the Old Testament, and it has Yeshua's name in the New Testament. Because again, do your own research on this. There's no J in Hebrew. The name Jesus, you absolutely can be saved in the name of Jesus. I was. You can cast out demons in the name of Jesus. I have. But that wasn't his name. Nobody called him that. And it begs the question, well, then how does that work? Real simple. Anybody here have kids? I have kids. My daughter has never walked up to me and said, Mr. Bear, sir, I'd like a moment of your time. They start with Dada. And I know who they're talking to. They didn't say Dad. They didn't say Daddy. They didn't say Mr. Bear, sir. They didn't say TJ Morris, I need a moment of your time. They didn't use my legal birth name. They said Dada. Shalom, Brother Gordy. But because I'm a loving and attentive father, I knew that they were talking to me, even if the words that came out of their mouth weren't exactly what my name is. Okay? That's how that works. So, in the Old Testament, the scriptures preserves the Tetragrammaton, Yod He Vav He. In the New Testament, it preserves the original name of Messiah, Yeshua or Yahushua, which essentially is the name Joshua, which means salvation. His besties probably called him Josh, being perfectly honest. So, and then the last reason that's a really kind of tactical, practical thing is all the names that are impossible to pronounce in the Bible, especially if you've ever read the book of Numbers, what the scriptures does is it spells all those names phonetically. So you just read it the way it's written, and that's how to pronounce that name. So that's why I like the scriptures. What other questions do we have? I've been called Bubba for 47 years, but that's not what my mama calls me. Know what you mean, brother. Thanks, elevator man. You see the point? I call my wife's name is not Mama, and she's not my mama. But when I call her Mama, she knows who I'm talking to, right?
Yep.
Is there power and authority in the name Mama? Do I get your attention? Mm-hmm. Do you execute as Mama in this household?
Yeah.
Is that your legal name? Okay. And here's the other thing. Different names for the same person connotate different depths of relationship with that person. There are only a handful of people on earth that call me T. Only a handful. And those are much deeper, closer relationships than Gen Pop, for sure. I know if somebody calls me Bear, I know where they know me from. They know me from the internet. They don't know me from real life. See what I mean? And so none of those names is wrong. But for me, I went from calling Messiah Jesus to calling him Yeshua because that was his name. And I was in prayer one day, and it was like he revealed his name to me. And there was no judgment. It wasn't, don't call me that, that's not my name. It was, you can call me this now if you're ready. It was an offering, an opportunity to move to a different phase of my relationship with him. So here we are. Bear, do you use the interlinear Bible? I sure do. I have a copy of it on that shelf right over there. Also, I have more books than I may ever be able to read in an entire lifetime. But one of those is absolutely the interlinear Bible. Twitch and his wife got it for me a little over a year ago. I'm very thankful for it. Cindy P., I like the New Testament bolds any Torah quote. That's also really cool in the scriptures. That when it's quoting chapter and verse, what you're reading is quoting a different chapter and verse from somewhere else, they put it in bold and then footnote it so you know where that came from. NWA Prepper! What's up, bro? Love you, man. I hope you're good. I hope you made it through the massive pile of snow we got here lately. What about the Geneva Bible? I don't have a Geneva Bible. My favorite translation is New Living Bear. Thank you. The scriptures online. Yeah, you can get it on the Bible app, man.
Yeah, it's called TS 2009.
Truth.
It's not called the script, like they abbreviate the scriptures.
Like there it is. And even there, to Cindy's point, you could see this is all in bold where these quotes are. I don't know if it'll focus, but up here it says TS 2009. There it goes. Right there. Cool. And it, coincidence, I'm sure. What is it open to? The two prime directives. Teacher, Rabbi, which is the greatest command in the Torah? Matthew 22:36. And Yeshua said to him, you shall love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart, with all your being, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest command. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commands hang all the Torah and the prophets. Coincidence, I'm sure. Praise Yah. That's beautiful. ND Prepper, I have a hard time reading. Message retracted. Thanks for reading the word online. Well, you're welcome. You didn't need to retract it, bro. You don't read the KJV. I don't. I have a KJV and I have a New King James Version. And before the scriptures was my EDC, the New King James was my EDC.
Mm-hmm. There's just like, he said the name, like there's a difference. Like the KJV a lot of times says good.
Yep.
Whereas in the scriptures, it says righteousness.
Yep.
And so when your depth of understanding grows, those words make a big difference.
Yep. 100%.
And so that's one of the reasons that I like it personally, is because I feel that the word choices aren't so generic. They're actually like true to what the message is.
That's a good word. 12C, correct. Rosemary asked if I have a reading of Job. I do not, because I started in the New Testament at Matthew chapter 1 and read all the way through to Revelation 22. And I started in the Old Testament at Genesis chapter 1. What a coincidence. Where should I begin, Father Yah? In the beginning. Oh, okay, like the beginning of the book? No, literally, those are the first words in the book, in the beginning. Tracking. And we're in Daniel now, just haven't made it to Job yet. But my goal, be it Yah's will, is to read every word of the Bible together with y'all on camera. Now, some of those videos, because YouTube is filled with a bunch of tyrannical morons, have been pulled down for violating YouTube's community guidelines. Luckily, we do have backups of all of those videos on an external hard drive, but just, given the current geopolitical climate, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point YouTube is like, yeah, no, we don't allow people to read the Bible on camera anymore. So, beautifully said by your wife. Yeah, she's awesome. I love her. I'm going to keep her for as long as y'all lets me. So, been a rough night for my fire department. Bad call. Please pray for a few of my firefighters and a poor family that lost a child. Thanks in advance. I'm so sorry to hear that, NWA. We will lift you up in prayer this evening. What other questions do we have?
Well, Joshua said the cross is an idol, but we're not supposed to make idols.
It's a graven image. And for a lot of people, it's become an idol.
Yeah.
And what I would say, so listen, there are degrees to this walk. And I realize for a lot of people, I'm a lot further down the path than most people. I'm not nearly as far down the path as a lot of the people that I look up to. So I'm not elevating myself to any particular status here. But I believe, we were just going over this in Isaiah 27 today, Isaiah 28 today. I believe that Yah has his chosen, that given their diligence and their faith, he reveals wisdom and understanding too. As your faith grows and your knowledge and understanding grows, and you begin to see things, inconsistencies in Big C Christianity, and you walk further away from the steeple and the preacher and closer to Messiah and Father Yah. And as you do, you begin to unlearn the lies of doctrines and dogmas and indoctrinations. And I've been blessed that I've unlearned a lot of lies in a short period of time. Not everybody has had that experience. So sometimes I will say things that will absolutely rub people the wrong way because they're not on that part of the path yet. This is probably going to be one of those things. First, there's no physical evidence or historical evidence that Yeshua was even crucified on a cross. In fact, that didn't come into vogue until a couple hundred years after his death, burial, and resurrection. And the Greek word that's translated as cross is actually the Greek word staros, which means stake or pole. Next, the iconography of the cross predates Christianity. It's Babylonian. Do some homework on that. Last, we're not supposed to make any graven images. We're certainly not supposed to bow down to them because there is no God but God. And I realize for a lot of people, the iconography of the cross is something that brings them closer to Messiah and makes them feel that at-one-ment, that atonement. It's a touch point for them that makes them mindful of their Messiah and their Creator. And I'm not trying to piss in your Cheerios on that. I am saying if you have questions about the historicity and the veracity of that, you should absolutely do your homework on it because there is a ton to unlearn when it comes to that. I have speaking more truth about keeping Torah again, brothers. They are unteachable spirits. I have a hard time giving up on them knowing the cost. May I have some advice on when enough is enough? Well, Justin, here's the thing. you don't want to put a stumbling block in between you and anybody else, and resist the urge, as I have had at times in my life, to be a Torah terrorist. Love people where they're at. Again, like I just said, we are all on different parts of the same path. And some of us have seen some shit that the rest of us haven't seen yet. I'll also say this. I firmly believe that everybody's supposed to keep the Torah. The Torah's for all people. I can't make anybody do that. And if I did, you wouldn't have an obedient heart. So literally in Isaiah today, command upon command, line upon line, here a little, there a little. The drunkards of Ephraim who had perverted the words of Yahweh. You don't want to be those people, and you don't want to get people just going through the motions. And sometimes I really believe the Father needs people who are going to take his word and their faith to a 10 to get everybody else at least to a 6. Somebody has to be crying in the wilderness to get everybody else to wake up and pay attention. Most people are going to operate at a 5 to 6, while some people, a select few, operate at a 9 to 10. And here's the rub. Yah loves us at 1. He loves us at 1. And he already factored in our stubbornness and our stupidity into the equation before he even initiated this existence that we live in. He knew the end before the beginning. And his ways are not our ways. He loves us at 1. We're not supposed to stay at 1. And it takes people screaming their bloody heads off in the wilderness at a 9 or a 10 to at least get a 1 to a 5. And the amount of patience and long suffering it takes to be that person screaming in the wilderness, knowing that if these people don't pull their heads out of their asses, they're dead for eternity. And the heartbreak that that person crying in the wilderness has, knowing what awaits that person if they don't get right with the Father by the blood of the Son. It's gut-wrenching. But see, Ezekiel helps us with this. Ezekiel's job was to preach the word to the people. And if he didn't, their blood was on his head. But if he did, their blood is on their heads. He had to go and speak the word of Yahweh. That's the job of a man of Elohim. Now, whether they receive it or not, that's on them. Now, you're asking the question of how much interaction should I have with these people? My question is, tactically, practically, how deep is your faith? Is being around people like that going to cause you to backslide to go do something you know that you shouldn't do or can't do? If the answer to that is yes, then love them from afar. Some of the people I love the most, I have to love from a distance because I just can't be around them right now. And they can't be around me right now. And that's okay. They're still my brothers. But they got to be over there right now. I got to be over here right now. Because we can't be civil to one another. And sometimes the best way to love your neighbor as yourself is to not be neighbors for a while. Now, if your faith in the situation can endure you being around these people and simply being a living witness as to what it means to walk in the ways of Elohim under the covenant of the blood of Messiah, then do it and be long-suffering. And understand, nobody's ever going to say thank you. Like, nobody ever thanks the man of Elohim. Nobody ever thanks the leadership. Because nobody, asterisk, the vast majority, never understand the burden of command. They never understand the gut-wrenching grief that you have for these people, that if they don't get right with the Father, they're done forever. They're blissfully ignorant and unaware. And because of that, they're incapable of respecting the sacrifice that you're making on their behalf to try and drag them through the mud to get them back on the path. So if that's you, since nobody else will ever thank you for that, I thank you for that. Because I understand what that's like. It's absolutely freaking exhausting, but it's the right thing to do. And if Yah be for us, who can be against us? Now, there's also a biblical precedent for a nap and a cookie. Sometimes, after you lop off 450 heads of false prophets, you got to find a cave, have a nap, have a cookie, take a break, and then get back into the game. And that's okay too. That's permittable. You can take a little time for yourself. I took the last 48 hours for myself because frankly, these rectangles have been pissing me off a lot lately. And then this evening, the Spirit was like, hey, you need to go live. I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm not doing that right now. And the Spirit was like,
and I thought we were going to do Patreon because that's what we missed.
Yep.
And then he was like, no, I'm going to do YouTube.
Gen Pop.
I was like, what?
Gen Pop. So sometimes you need a little bit of yonder, and that's okay. Bear, what is your opinion on the Word of Yah, the King's Covenant, the original scriptures, E1? I have no idea, Big Timber. I don't know. I don't know to what you're referring.
Al Henry asked, what does one do when your daughter tells you that she is into witchcraft? To which I asked if she was still in his house.
Yep. How old is she?
She is not, but he does not know how to deal with it.
The best you can do at that point, if she's not in your house, she's not under your covering, is you can absolutely pray prayers of intercession for her. And I would get as many believers on that as you know. The nows of 2 or 3 let a thing be established. And corporate prayer is very powerful. And the fervent, effectual prayer of a righteous man availeth much.
And
next,
continue being a light.
Yep. And love her in her stupidity. Because as a guy who's covered in satanic tattoos, I'm convinced a major contributor to the fact that I'm still alive and Yah didn't kill me when I deserved it was because of the intercessory prayer of many people, including my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a decade of being in apostasy. She's 21, perfect age for some hood rat shit.
Yeah.
It took me a decade of being in apostasy for me to realize that Yah was real and my ways were bullshit. Mike Morrison, bless you. And that I needed to turn back to him. And again, I said this earlier in the conversation, but I'm a light switch man. On, off, up, down, left, right, good, bad, black, white. And I needed Yah in a moment of some really bad shit. And I cried out to him. And he answered me. And he delivered me. And at that point, I could choose not to follow him, but I could never be convinced again that he wasn't real. And that was the beginning of the turning point for me. I don't know, Big Timber. I'll look into it maybe.
And I would ask her questions. Why? Why is she like, what is it about witchcraft that is drawing her to it?
Bless you, Mike. Yeah.
Like, why does she feel like that's her path?
Mm-hmm.
And just have an honest conversation with her. Like,
Shalom, Sister Kate.
SK.
We got all the VIPs in the house. I do not want to put this user in timeout. SK, hey, comment again real quick, please. Yeah. Have patience. Love her through it. But don't capitulate on your righteousness.
Mm-hmm.
Punching somebody in the face with the word is a really bad way to get them to listen to it.
Especially if she's doing it out of rebellion. Like.
Mm-hmm. What's up, Dudley? Shalom. There we go. Sister Kate, newest member of the Blue Wrench Mafia.
Yay!
Sister Kate rocks.
She does.
What other questions do we have? We've been doing almost 2 hours here. Paganism can be very welcoming. It is a shame that same love and compassion doesn't shine from a godly source. Yeah, that's the other thing too, man, is that maybe she just wants to experience some type of spiritual power above and beyond what she's been taught her whole life. And sometimes knowing God is real intellectually and knowing that Yah is real beyond a shadow of a doubt spiritually are two very different things. I've never read the Torah, but I've read KJB front to back. I must say, your reading online has made me rethink a few things that I was raised believing. Thanks for your time as always. Bless you, Bill. Also, if you've read the Bible front to back, you have read the Torah, because the Torah is Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. It is the first 5 books of the Bible.
The OT.
The OT. It's called the Pentateuch in the Greek, because everybody reads Greek these days. Fathers have rebellious children. Humans are a great example of that. There's a lesson there. It's a good word, Iridium Group. And also, I'll say this again to reiterate, just because she's into witchcraft right now, and again, pray for her, man, because there are so many doors that can be opened by that most people don't even know they're opening. It is dangerous. But Yah can put a hedge around her. Yah can protect her. Especially if she cries out on her own. But just because she's into some shady shit right now doesn't mean she's a lost cause. I'm a walking, living, breathing example of that. Mm-hmm. If it's bad for you or bad for somebody else, I've probably done it. And yet and still the Father saw fit to redeem me. Shalom, Katie. Training starts tomorrow for the ruckus. I love it. Cosmic Squirrel, I'm grateful for your Bible studies, Bear. They've helped me so much. Well, praise Yah. On your farm, do you produce enough to feed the team? You know, strong man, protein-wise, I absolutely believe the answer to that is yes. I've got 7 sheep and 2 head of cattle that would be in the freezer right now if I had room in the freezer. Praise Yah. And that is not counting the at least a half a dozen roosters that I need to cull and 3 tom turkeys that need to be culled right now. And I eat almost entirely meat myself. We were watching something stupid on the TV yesterday. It was like, the average American eats 60 pounds of beef per year.
That's that they haven't met you.
I was like, that's like me in a month, dude.
Yeah.
Like straight up in a month. So from a protein standpoint, I'd say absolutely. From a grain standpoint, no, we're not there yet. And I am still experimenting with like how to actually make grains grow given the soil and the rain and the sun that we have here. And I've tried all kinds of things, man. This seed and that native seed and this method and that method. And it just, I'm not there yet. Now, luckily, right? First, know thyself. I can make meat, man. Like we got that down. Sheep and cattle and chickens and turkeys, got that down. And then if we just, not a first line of defense, but still a resource, these woods are full of deer. Like if we had to shoot deer to survive, it'd be a while before we began to run out. I don't recommend that tactic for the rest of y'all because most of y'all don't have your animal husbandry down. And it's not our first line of defense against starvation either. But grains, we're not there yet. But I have people smarter and better at that than me working on it. Praise Yah. Key phrase there, I have people working on it. And then garden vegetables, salads and, potatoes and your greens and your herbs and tomatoes and squash and onions and jalapenos and garlic and all that. We're pretty good at that. Our household, we're not great at that, but we're pretty good at that. And we as a people I'd say somewhere between B plus and A minus, honestly, when it comes to gardening. And I have some people in my camp and in my tribe that are just magnifique. Life on our micro farm, Loomf, that sister can grow some food. Mad Kelp, that brother can grow some food, right? So we've got people for that. Cracker turned Torah, that brother can grow some food. And so praise Yah. So not self-sufficient when it comes to that, but that is the long-term goal. And I'll give you a little bit of a spoiler alert. You hit a point of diminishing returns, trying to be 100% self-sufficient. And the way that modern day we solve that lack of self-sufficiency is through diesel fuel and feed stores. Just let's be frank, that's what it is. Trip to Tractor Supply and make sure there's diesel in the tractor, skid steer, work truck, whatever. But the unlock there, how do you remove the dependency upon the system, knowing you've reached the point of diminishing returns on self-sufficiency? How does one define self? That's the answer. Because me and my house will never be 100% self-sufficient. But I have a brother and a sister who don't live far from here. And that sister grew up on a dairy farm. And they have goats that they milk. And they're getting back into dairy cattle. And they produce a bunch of milk. Now, they don't know how to make cheese, but they have milk. But I have another brother who's great at making cheese. And so that's the type of thing there where you get diversification stratified across self-sufficiency. If you're defining self as my house, any one of us would be incredibly hard-pressed to achieve actual self-sufficiency on any scale. You could hunter-gatherer it. You could live it up in Alaska in a trapper's cabin and produce all your calories that way and basically hibernate throughout the winter, which frankly I'd be okay with. I love that concept. But you got to have people, because if you live alone and you turn your ankle, congratulations, now you're grizzly shit. That's no good. And so the unlock is, how do you define self? And if self is us, we are self-sufficient as a tribe, as a mutual assistance group. That's way more doable, way more attainable than me as for my house self-sufficient. And it also adheres to Acts chapter 2, where they held all things in common. And I think people often miss that. They think some type of Karl Marx type situation where they were a bunch of socialists and everybody threw all their stuff and their money in a pot, and then, you know, to each their need and all that crap. I disagree with that. A, because I don't see that played out anywhere else in the Bible biblically, and I don't see that in Torah. Now, it does say, let none amongst you be poor. And Yeshua reiterates, the poor will be with you always. Okay. Well, part of why the Father allows your wealth to be blessed is so that you can be a blessing to others, because the poor will be with you always. So you're supposed to help them. Forsake not the widow and the orphan, that type of thing. But I believe Acts chapter 2, they held all things in common, was because of how enmeshed as a people they were. And a really basic example of this is, I have probably bought minimum 3 dozen camp chairs since we've been here.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I have a dozen at my gazebo. Yeah. And the ones that I have at my gazebo aren't the ones that I bought, by and large. But somewhere else, at the cabin next door, there's camp chairs. And some of those chairs are chairs they bought, and the rest of them aren't. And at Shofar Mountain, there's camp chairs.
And some have broke.
And some of them are chairs they bought, and some of them aren't. And it just gets to the point where it's like, and they held all things in common. About a month ago, I hit the group chat, and I was like, hey, I don't know who has my log splitter, but I'd like to have it back to split some firewood. If you could get it back to me in the next week, that'd be great. Now, I remembered that somebody had asked me, could they borrow it? And I said yes, but I didn't remember who that was. And I didn't care who it was, because whoever it was one of my brothers, and they all keep Torah, and they know if they break it, they got to fix it before they return it, and, you know, refill the fuel and all that, and they'll be good stewards of it. And so you hold all things in common for the common good. That's what I think Acts chapter 2 looks like. Not a bunch of socialist utopian bullshit.
Sure.
Last question of the evening. I may have a bear chair. Probably NWA Prepper. They're freaking everywhere, man. Tri-state area. One more question. All right. Do you have a recommended study Bible? The scriptures. Venti does it. Bless you, bro. How can you keep Torah and follow Paul at the same time?
There's your question.
Well, do we have another hour?
We were just talking about that today.
I'm going to try, and I'm going to assume that that question is asked legitimately and not poke the bear. So that's the first assumption I'll make. Next, I'm going to assume that I can answer this question without sounding like a raging asshole. And so I'm going to try. Here we go. First things first. Shaul of Tarsus, the Apostle Paul, was a Pharisee of Pharisees, of his own account, raised at the feet of Gamaliel, capable of reciting the entirety of the Torah on command. Shaul of Tarsus, who is renamed popularly Paul or Paulus, even though there's zero historical evidence that he was ever referred to as Paul. His name was Shaul of Tarsus. The Apostle Paul, Shaul, wrote many of the epistles in the New Testament, some of which people like to cite, for example, Romans and Galatians, saying that we don't have to do the law anymore because Paul said so. Here's the thing, and I would, if this is an honest question, man, I would encourage you, A, to research Paul, to like really research Paul, not the doctrines and dogmas around Paul, but what did Paul say? And B, listen to the freaking Bible videos I've been putting out every week for 5 years. Shalom, Texas T. And so there are thousands of hours of me reading the Bible on camera, word for word, explaining the answer to this question. Next, here, let me ask you a question. Is Jesus God? Okay. It's an honest question. Cool. Is Jesus God? The answer to that's yes. Okay. In fact, this is proven out in the Torah portion today, where Moshe sees the burning bush and the messenger of Elohim is there speaking with him. And Moshe lowers his eyes, the messenger of Elohim, capital M, messenger of Elohim, Yah made flesh. And Moshe lowers his eyes, and then he's speaking to Yahuwah, because no man can look upon his face and live. Okay? If Messiah is God, if Yeshua is Yahuwah, and Yah says in Malachi 3, verse 6, I'm the Lord Yahuwah Sabaoth, the Lord of hosts, I do not change. How could Jesus change anything that the Father said? Next question. What is sin? And don't give me some typical big C Christianity bullshit answer if sin is missing the mark. It's an archery term, which means missing the mark. What's the mark? And chicken or the egg, which came first? Did archery adopt the term sin? Or did it create the term sin? Because Sin, 1 John 3, verse 4, sin is lawlessness, and all who do sin do lawlessness. What's the law? It's the Torah. So God doesn't change. If Jesus is God, he can't change it. And sin is lawlessness. Which now, if you understand those fundamental things, you're left with a decision to make about Paul. Either Paul said, you don't have to do the Torah anymore, and Paul is saying something counter to both Yah, a law forever throughout all your generations in all your dwellings, which, by the way, people will argue the Torah is for Israel only, which also flies in the face of Paul in Romans 11, verse 16, the whole grafted in thing. What do you think you're grafted into? The tree of life. That's a Hebrew idiom for Israel. If you're a Gentile believer in Messiah, you're grafted into Israel, the tree of life. And also, if you're a Gentile believer in Messiah, you are in ketubah, covenant relationship. You are in a covenant relationship with the Jewish guy. Read Matthew chapter 1. And since we know Jesus is God and God doesn't change, Jesus couldn't have done away with any of this, which again leaves us with, but Paul said. But if you don't know what the Torah is, if you haven't read Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, and I mean read them and really understand them, what most people will miss about Paul was Paul was a Pharisee of Pharisees. He was incredibly gifted, and he is teaching Torah in the epistles in the New Testament at a doctorate level. And if you don't know the Torah, you have no frame of reference for what it is that Shaul of Tarsus, the Apostle Paul, is teaching. You're not even a kindergartner. You're in pre-K when it comes to the lessons and the points that Shaul is trying to make in the New Testament. So you either, per this question, have to believe that somehow in the divinely inspired, God-breathed word of the Bible, that there's two conflicting statements here. Jesus is God and God doesn't change. Therefore, when God says a law forever throughout all your generations and all your dwellings, and he meant it, this is a law forever. And Messiah, Jesus says in Matthew 5:17, truly, truly, I say unto you, until heaven and earth pass away, not one jot, not one tittle shall fall from the Torah till all be done. He says in Matthew 7:21, Master, Master, have I not prophesied in your name and cast out demons in your name and done many mighty works in your name? Depart from me, you who work lawlessness, you who work Torahlessness, I never knew you. Or in Revelation 22, verses 12 through 14, I'm the Aleph and the Tav, the beginning and the last, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. Behold, I come swiftly to reward each man according to his works. Blessed are those who do the commands of Elohim, so the right is theirs to enter through the gates into the city. So all that's true, and Shaul's wrong, somehow inside of this God-breathed corpus of the Bible, or the Big C Christian church understanding of Paul is wrong, because second and third witnesses, Revelation 12:17 and Revelation 14, verse 12, here is the endurance of the saints. What Shaul, the Apostle Paul, was actually saying, it's both. It's not doctrinal Judaic Judaism, rabbinic Talmudic Judaism. It's the Torah. And those two things are absolutely conflated in Christianity because they have no frame of reference for it, because they don't study it. They don't teach it. It's not rabbinic Judaism. It's the Torah and belief in Messiah. And belief in Messiah, let me go one step further. Belief in Messiah is the Torah. Because Revelation 12:17, here's the endurance of the saints, those that have a testimony of Yeshua HaMashiach and keep the commands. Revelation 14, verse 12 as well. And the dragon, Revelation 12, the dragon was enraged with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, those that have a testimony of Yeshua HaMashiach and keep the commands. No comma. It's not two different people groups. It's one people group that checks both of those boxes, that does both of those things. Because belief in Messiah is keeping the Torah. Because Torah is the opposite of sin from the mouth of Paul. I knew not sin but by the law. Shall we sin? Shall we be Torahless? 1 John 3, verse 4. So shall we be Torahless all the more so that grace may abound? No, God forbid you continue to sin because of the grace that you received from Messiah. And then you can go to the renewed covenant in Hebrews chapter 8, verses 6 through 13. This is the renewed covenant, that the Father's laws will be in your mind and written on your heart, and then he will be your Elohim, and you will be his people, and he will remember your sins and your lawlessness no more. So you're left with two options. Either Shaul was teaching at a doctorate level about adherence to Torah through belief in Messiah, not rabbinic Judaism, but the Torah as written and handed to Moshe from the finger of Elohim, the mouth of Yah, taught by Messiah, Matthew 5, Matthew 7. And it's both. Or dogma has said that Shaul says we don't have to do the Torah anymore. You can even go to Colossians 2, kind of the key verse, nailed to the cross verse. We don't have to do that anymore. Colossians 2:14. Therefore, let no man judge you in eating or drinking, in the keeping of Sabbaths or high holy days. For this is the body of Messiah, and a shadow of what is to come. And if you read Colossians 2, what was nailed to the cross was the doctrines and dogmas of men. Doctrines and dogmas of men, not the word of Elohim. And just to reiterate, John chapter 1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. What is the Word before Matthew chapter 1? See, if you read the Old Testament, you would know this. The Word is the Torah. The Word made flesh. The Torah made flesh. I come not to destroy the Torah of the prophets, but to play Ra'u, embody it. So the whole argument that Shaul of Tarsus, the Apostle Paul, said we don't have to do Torah is non-biblical. It's dogmatic. And I would deeply recommend to everybody, don't go reading Shaul of Tarsus if you don't know what Shaul is talking about. He's talking about the Torah, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And that is the last question we're going to do tonight. I appreciate y'all. And I wanted to say this too. I'll end with this. You don't have to believe the way that I believe. But you guys are asking me these questions, not me. You don't have to believe the way that I believe. And I'm not saying I have it all figured out, because I don't have it all figured out. But I grew up in a Christian church. I spent a decade in satanic worship and apostasy. Turned from that to Teshuva, came into the non-denominational evangelical church, was baptized in the name of Messiah, watched that church implode, was left with nothing after that church imploded other than the understanding that Yah was real, that Yeshua was real, and that the Bible was true. And I read the Bible for myself over and over and over again. And that's where the basis for all of this came from. And then I was blessed that the Father put mentors in my life after that to help me increase my knowledge and understanding through obedience to Messiah, who suffered on my behalf to atone for my sins. And these aren't things that I think, y'all, when I say these to you. I don't know if you've noticed this. I haven't opened a Bible one time. Whether I like it or not, have a certain gifting that it's just in here. And it's not just in here written on my mind, it's also written on my heart. These are things I know to be true. In my life, in my walk, unequivocally, I know them to be true. That is faith. I have experienced it over and over and over again. My God is God, and he is real. And he has showed up more times than I can count to bail me out and bail out people that I love over and over and over again. Bless you, Pastor. But you don't have to believe the way that I believe to hang out at this channel. That's okay. I'm not trying to force anybody into anything. But I will tell you this. You can't make me unbelieve what I believe. And I will never be shy talking about what I believe and why I know it to be true. And again, Can you upload this so I can reference and bring to preacher? Absolutely. It'll be a video once I hit end stream.
Yeah.
Again, I would encourage you, if you heard something tonight that maybe challenged the paradigm that you hold, or brushed up against the doctrine or dogma that you've been taught that doesn't seem right, please, for the love of God, take your Bible out and do your own research. Put no man on a pedestal, me included. I might have a certain gifting that I have high retention and understanding of that word. That's from Elohim. It's not because I'm cool, it's because he's cool. But don't take what I say as gospel. Read it yourself. Pray over it. Ask the Father to show his truth and his word to you. And he will. And again, you don't have to believe like I believe. A little bit or a lot bit. You're welcome here if you don't. But I will never apologize for the way that I believe. And I will never tolerate disrespect because of how we believe. And if we can play by those rules, we're cool. So I hope you all had an awesome day of rest. I'm glad that the Spirit convicted me to do this live stream, especially for Gen Pop, because I'll be honest, I really have not wanted to talk to Gen Pop lately. So this was an exercise in obedience for me as well. I'm glad we did it. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. I do love y'all, and I will see you when I see you. Shalom.